on them.
I could address a few of the items. So our website went through a soft launch approximately a month ago. So a lot of the information, Edwina, that you spoke in regards to being missing or incomplete on our website, it is. Our hard launch, where we will have every page filled with something or more comprehensive information provided, that hard launch happens at the end of May. There was a essential need to get our new website up in time for our national convention registration. So in order to get that up, we put all of our focus and our time, staff time, on those convention links and information pages. And then as we move through through April and the end of May, we'll ensure that all of those other pieces are either provided with some information, and in other areas that I could provide more comprehensive information, that too will be hanging up there. As far as the statistics, if I can find the statistics in sites like BIE, like the Department of Ed, like the National Center for Education Statistics, then those places also will be updated for our hard launch at the end of May. Again, as I said in my presentation, and you are aware, some of our statistics are hard to find because people like Bryan, like RELs and comp centers, and those that conduct education in Indian country, it's hard to collect our data because we're such a small number of people, small number of students, a small number of teachers. So if it's collected, if it's analyzed and reported and in a location that I can locate it, download it, and put it on our website, then I will be more than happy to do that. I only have a few resources that I can go and use. So those that are listening to this webinar, if there are places that you know where I can get Native education statistics, public school, tribally controlled schools, bureau schools, charter schools, parochial schools, send it my way and I can surely hang it on our statistics website, web page within our website. I can address NIEA, National Indian Education. When we were founded in 1969, it was out of self-determination. It was out of a need for a voice, again, from the grassroots level about Indian education. And at that time, in the late 60s, early 70s, that's what we were labeled. We were Indians. We weren't natives. Indian education is also in the U.S. Constitution, in the Department of Education, the word Indian in the Bureau of Indian Affairs. So it was a timing, historical timing issue why we became the National Indian Education Association. Yes, I agree. In progress and through the past 47 years, we've included Native Alaska. We've included Native Hawaii. So it was the American Indians only at the very beginning in the founding of the organization. So changing our name probably won't happen because of its historic significance at the time when NIEA was founded. I'm more than happy to put up Public Law 63, and I can't remember the rest of the numbers, but I know which one you're talking about, and I know why it's important that it hangs on our website. And it will be under our story, the link on our website that tells our story, NIEA's story, and why that public law is so important. So thank you for pointing that out to me. And I can't remember some of the other links, or questions, but I will address each one of them.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So those were just some of the ones that I had popped up, like you said, that, computer systems are always down in the system,
Mm-hmm.
and it, that's understandable. So
right.
Maybe if I revisit that website, maybe I can look at some of this again.
Yes, And please, everyone listening and everyone listening in the future on this webinar, our website is organic. We never want our website to be complete. We always want it to be growing and changing. And again, it's not NIEA's ownership website. It's a member-driven, community-driven website. So you see, and Edwina and I'd like to thank you, you see an issue on the website, you email, you let us know, you bring it to our attention. And again, if it's some of the specifics, Edwina, that you spoke about that will be beneficial to the whole community serving Native students and Native education, then we can make those kind of changes. So I appreciate all of the questions. I have them listed, and then I can address each one of them.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Bryan, I don't want to leave you out. Did you want to respond at this time, or did you need to reflect on the suggestions?
I think they were great suggestions. As I mentioned during my portion, the CSAI primarily focuses on the topics of standards, assessment, and accountability, and then we also delve into curriculum instruction on a small part. So, but Edwina did bring up a very important and ongoing issue that there needs to be more research done around the student population, more data made available so that evidence-based interventions can be developed and piloted and disseminated.
Thank you very much. We didn't get a whole lot of questions during the webinar, but we had quite a few whenever people registered. So if we can address some of those, I think the people that are still with us would find it very informative. And so I'm going to start with the first question, and that would be, how do I determine if resources are culturally responsive when I am not Native American? Edwina, do you want to start?
Well, I think that to address that question is that it bases it on culture. Is that right? I've got 20 things. So I think that it starts with maybe your area of tribes, and you have to determine on you want to base your students, if the students is what's the most population in your school of the tribes and their cultural, the basis of Native American, and so it depends on the area tribes. I think that as being a leader, that most of our area tribes here are mostly the Absentee Shawnee tribe and the Sac and Foxes, and we have our Seminoles. So we try to direct those children in the right direction of what cultural they belong to, and try to implement some of their cultural in that aspect. So as doing after-school programs that we have implemented from here at the Absentee Shawnee tribe, that's what we focus on different. We take a toll of how many children we have in there and what tribe, and we try to focus on all areas. So I think the tribes is a good start to start at.
Okay, let's take another twist on that. Diana, if I am not Native American, how would I, as an educator, determine whether the resources were culturally responsive?
Well, to build off of what Edwina said, if you're in a state that has a tribal representation, either state or federally recognized tribal communities, out of respect, I would try to reach out and find out what culturally, what are their cultural practices that you could include. But in regards to the responsiveness, the pedagogy and the strategies or delivery of the lesson or the curriculum, And we'll have, again, back to our website, we'll have some of these links or some of these documents provided on cultural pedagogy or practices of cultural pedagogy. But specifically, it's around understanding each student's cultural practices. If that student is, you're aware of students in your classroom being Native, find out what tribe they are. Making a connection to them culturally in that manner, just knowing their tribal connection. Even if they're not sure, getting a student to converse about, I could be, or I potentially, or I think I am, is a good way to start because you're student-centered. You're wanting to know their background, including family and community in the conversation of the delivery of the lesson, including, not including them in your classroom, but including them in the conversation and the delivery of the lesson. What is happening in the community that your school is in? Those are all culturally responsive teaching practices. Does that help?
I think
Haidee?
so.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
And we just had Brookie post a question back to you, and then I'm going to ask Bryan a question. But since it's fresh here on the chat pod, I was going to ask, will there be professional development for administrators and teachers in culturally responsive resources, PowerPoints, placed on the NIEA site?
Yes, there will be. At the end of May. Yes, that'll be part of our professional development.
Exactly.
I am making your webinar website people, webinar people, come back to us. I feel like I'm in limbo, but I'm, rolling this out. This is actually going to happen. We currently conduct face-to-face in the community trainings. We call it core knowledge and cultural-based education trainings for teachers, for school administrators, and for community, parents and tribal community members. So pieces of those face-to-face 3- and 4-day intensive trainings will be on our website. Currently, within our webinar section, we have a Common Core cultural-based education webinar that we hosted a couple of years ago. Don't let the word Common Core scare you away. If you're not a Common Core state, it's literally core knowledge, the skills of delivering the curriculum, the critical thinking, the problem solving, the analysis, the evaluation that every student should be achieving within our classrooms. But the piece that I want everyone to hear is the cultural-based education piece. It's the pedagogy and it's the instructional strategies that are key coming out of understanding culturally responsive teaching practices.
Thank you very much. Bryan, we had a question from Donald, and he wanted to know, how do we support non-Native educators with building culturally responsive school systems for Native Americans?
That is a good question, and my answer is going to seem repetitive, but we at the center have done a lot of looking at the new law, the new law and the language in the new law, and there is a common theme that goes throughout each topic that's discussed, and that is involving stakeholders, whether they may be state education agency, involving the local education agency, the local education agency involving the community and parents, or some combination thereof. So I think one of the best practices that has been stated already by Edwina and Diana is to make sure that you're including your local community members in the decisions that are being made and collecting information and feedback from them at every step along the process. Outside of that, you can also look to resources that have been proven in other similar areas, and by similar I mean similar context, to find out not necessarily things that you can plug in and use, but things that you can consider and see if they would apply well to your particular context.
Thank you very much, Bryan. Let's see, and then we had a question here. I'll go to, I don't know. It's always hard to determine who would I ask this question. I'll just go ahead and let the group respond. You can tell me. Do you know of a district that is using some of these best practices that we've been discussing? A district that's doing this well?
I would say start looking in Montana. Montana has paved the way for not only the Indian education standards and in ensuring at the state level that standards are developed that drive the curriculum down at the state, at the public school and bureau and the tribally controlled schools, but they've also instituted professional learning to ensure that, again, the standards and the pedagogy that goes along with delivering of these standards and utilizing them effectively is happening. So I don't know of a specific district, but I'm telling you to go and try Montana. Go on their website. Every one of their staff in their Indian Education office are supportive in sharing their information, supportive in letting you know what's happening successfully, where we've struggled and what we've modified in order to ensure that Indian education is specifically driven by Indian people, by the communities, by the tribe, and by the parents to meet those needs of those Indian students.
I think in Oklahoma, our Indian educators strive that strong bill there to not for a particular district, but there's many districts there that they represent. So I think as being collaborating with one another and networking with one another in Indian education, I think we here in Oklahoma, we do have that strong backing with one another as Indian educators. So I think that means a lot and trying to, I'm not going to say a district overrule, is trying to change. I think they all are trying to change as our educators are pushing behind each school district. So I think that's how we do it here in Oklahoma and striving and making ourselves be heard out there to what our needs are.
Thank you. And then here's an interesting question from Quentin. What do teachers need to know about this culture to make learning exciting and fun?
I think teachers need to be wanting to know about the culture of children, because the children in the classroom feeds back up on what that teacher feels in there. So I think that it starts with the teachers willing to learn about cultural of their students in there. And then whenever that all transpires, and then they'll have a good learning experience for teachers, because I think it starts with the teachers at the very beginning itself. And at the very beginning, maybe some listing plans of even bringing in community, a very spoken person in the community and cultural, or the tribe. I specifically do the tribe because some tribes do have culture preservation programs on their site, and which that's what they do. They're cultural people.
Okay, Diana, Bryan, did y'all have anything to add?
From a teacher standpoint, I would say get out from in front of the classroom. Get out from behind your desk. Quit lecturing and start utilizing more group activities. Help the students learn through watching in your demonstration, your coaching. Model an example of something, and then give the students the ownership of the practice. helping them understand that it's okay to make mistakes. Since I've been in education and through my master's program, through No Child Left Behind, and understanding that it wasn't about the learning process, it was about the right or wrong. Now we're getting back to how do they learn? So understanding as a teacher, you have 37 or 30 or 27 or whatever your average classroom is, potentially different ways of learning. So helping a student understand that it is okay to make mistakes. Life is full of mistakes. So mimicking that, making mistakes as a teacher and acknowledging that you made a mistake. Help students learn through experience and practice. As Indian people, and I go back again, it's not Common Core, it's called core knowledge. It's called indigenous pedagogy. We learn from each other, giving the ownership to the students in the classroom, all of the students, from those that are lower performing to those that are higher performing. It's hard to let go as a teacher. For many years, veteran teachers and new teachers have been taught that they're the masters of their classroom. And we're now we're changing that story. We're changing the narrative, and we're making our students the masters of the classroom. And that's a challenge. But as a teacher, I challenge you to do that.
Okay, thank you. That is quite a challenge. It really is. I've got one last, and then for Diana. Resource that you would highlight at this time.
Heidi, you cut out, so all I heard was resource at this time.
Uh-oh, sorry. What would you consider to be the most significant and relevant resource on your website?
Oh my goodness. Let me look at my website real fast. You know what? I'm going to have to do a shameless plug and say right now it's our convention. Our 47th Annual Convention and Trade Show in Reno, October 5th through the 8th. Not only am I trying to invite educators, advocates, and students, but I'm also letting you know that this is a place to learn everything that was just presented on the website, to learn about these cultural repository information, to learn about cultural pedagogy, to hear successful programs within our workshop section, to learn about what education research is happening, what's trendy, what are people collecting data on, and how can we utilize that data to make effective change in our local communities and our local schools. Hear keynote speakers from the national level, from the local level, and from our native perspective, all around this cultural-based education piece. If you want a crash course and professional development event, this is what I would say is the most beneficial resource on our website right now.
Fair enough. Bryan?
I think, well, this is a very difficult question, but I think the most important resource that's available on our website is the one that helps each individual the most. I think that it can be very overwhelming to try to find something very specific when there's so much out there. So if I had to pick one, I think so we do a lot of tracking of what resources are being accessed. And so the one that has the most downloads and views currently was published just last year in 2015 by the North Dakota Department of Public Instruction. And it was one of the resources that was featured on the webinar today. It's the Menu of Possible Interventions for Native American Students, Guidance, Practices, Programs, Strategies, and Resources. Just because it has a wide variety of topics that are covered and provides direct evidence-based resources to those who are accessing it. And I'm going to amend my earlier response and say I think the most important resource that our website offers is the fact that if there's something that you're looking for that you're having difficulty finding, or if there's something that you feel that needs to be addressed, that you can contact the center yourself and let us know.
That is the ace in the hole, isn't it? Okay. Thank Bryan, Diana, and Edwina for taking time to share their, first, Bryan and Diana, the resources that are available, and Diana for stepping out there and sharing some of the resources when it was a soft launch. And then Governor Edwina Butler-Wolfe's perspective on them, and some of the hard questions, some of the suggestions. That's how we all improve. And at this time, with that, we would like for you to complete the stakeholder feedback survey and give us your feedback on this webinar. And in addition, what else would you like to hear about? So, please at this time, go to the survey, complete it, and you don't have to remember it later. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.